Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is Jonas Reporters for the 21st as we enter spring. A little bit of a retrace, like we were talking about the potential moving back down to the ABM yellow, which is, I think, pretty close to where we ended up. That number was 28.16. We hit 17 and a quarter. That's better than government work, certainly very close. We can see that we had the rising of some short activity. The first time we've actually seen a little bit of what we would consider DOC spread from a strong standpoint, in that we had green crossing below at the same time that cyan was rising. We just didn't have the cross of the steel at that particular point, and that happened during the day. So that was significant point to just, while we recognize that there was already going to be weakness. We had short-term buyers have been fading for quite some time into this build-up. It's nothing horrible or dramatic. It's rather benign, actually. Likewise, for the NASDAQ, we could still, the NASDAQ much stronger with that red DOC way up there near the 7.5. And that's going to have to turn over along with lower shakeout. We're almost at a point where we're going to get to 13, well, we're over 13.5, I mean the 15 line right here of the yellow on the shakeout, which would put it in sort of that perennial long run bias while at the highs. And this is mostly bolstered by this massive euro move. And again, this is that no bread exit means that all the worry and everything faded away because people don't decide. Financial powers decide what happens with the euro, and so this definitely helps S&P because it immediately bolsters earnings just on exchange rate. Did produce a spike in gold because we saw a huge drawdown in oil in that, which suggests that maybe some of these fears about the economy stopping are just that. Fears. A lot of it was cyclical weather situations, and we'll see if it rebounds now that spring supposedly has arrived, even though I think the Farmer's Almanac said it would be late, or it was the we actually had the groundhog said it was going to be early, so who knows. Either way, we still had a pretty decent day of movement because we ended up with early buys right here that kind of brought us up, but immediately DOC spread, boom, that led to retrace of the low, which is not a surprise because we had a dip below the red line, so fine, that was expected. We got down to those lows again and made a new dip below the red line, which meant that even on this pop we were going to retest it again, and we did. Did produce a nice buy setup within there, and you had the X's and all the Y's because it met all the criteria for the buy configuration. Didn't do a whole lot, and by the time it came across here, it started to get pretty murky as the red rolled over after having made a new high. And once that was taking place, you had a couple of bars that warned before it broke below 7.5, even all the way over to as far as here. This is one of those where you can wait and say, okay, well, yeah, it's weakening. Am I going to get any support turnaround in that? And you had nothing here. Absolutely no support whatsoever from orange or anything like that. So there was time to take the break even on that one. And it was right at the 28.30 algo. That broke down. That produced this nice setup with the deep dip, little orange here. This is running the Deocon Paint 2. So this is that adjusted one. Yes, did come back, made a new low, but on that higher red DOC and the additional pivots. Even if you'd waited or wanted to add to it, there was the secondary signal that came through here, and look at what that produced. That was a big move past the 28.30, boom, and then all the way to the 45, at which point we started to see lower shakeout on higher highs just at that 15. I put the red one in there because this is your early warning. It's sort of like it's not the best in the world, so I'm definitely going to be looking for any pop to attack if the readings maintain themselves. You get a much cleaner one right here, actually fractionally lower price than the original, but having made the new high, it set up with that finalized, and that happens right at that 28.45. And the rest is history because you come right back down and fill the positive extremes from right here which takes you all the way back to the 23.75, which it filled before the close of the day. So it's kind of doesn't get really much easier than that. It's pretty straightforward. And we had a little bit of a pop, but dipped below the red line, so we refilled that one on the higher extremes. So it doesn't have to dip. We're already seeing no rising gold well below the 23%. That's going to require some serious DOC red to break out past this previous pivot high right here. So that's not producing any X's, which would give you the crossover signal. But it's still reasonable dip below with the green. The green's got to get over cyan to really push this past the 23. So for now, anything below that 28.30 is still to the shorter side, and definitely likewise would happen in break of the 28.17. That's it. That's the long and the short of it. It's clean and easy. Even if we look at the 50K just for the fun of it, you can see what happens right there with that. We had the beautiful breakdown from that DOC red that was starting to fall apart. We were talking about that from right there. We had the cross of the steel coming up, but it couldn't make that move upon crossing the red relatively quickly. It's got to happen within a couple of bars to really show a positive strength index, and really didn't do that, and that caused it to come down just a little bit more before it reset and did the exact same thing. Of course, that particular point reached right back up to the 76%. Having had dipped below the red line here, we knew that it needed to come back at least to this bar right here, which is the 28.21, and we did 28.20 on this lower dip, but the previous ones were right on it. And that's just the same concept as filling the positive extremes on that 5K. So it's mimicking in slightly the different way with the dip of the extreme below the red line. So all in all, cool to see it. As always though, if there's something unique, these were all pretty straightforward signals, nothing unique or special about that. I will definitely put them up on the Skype chat. As always though, trade well. We'll talk again later.